They seat us under a chandelier the size of a satellite, crystals catching every conversation and breaking it into glints. The steakhouse smells like butter and rare promises. My mother's bracelets clink. My father orders the good wine without looking at the prices, like he's always done for the moments he calls family milestones. It's a celebration, he says, palms up, as if the word alone pays gratuity. My brother, Ryan, rocks back in his chair and grins at the waiter like they're co-conspirators. He's wearing a jacket he didn't iron, a confident kind of wrinkled. I ironed mine. I iron everything. Shirts, thoughts, boundaries. The envelope appears with the dessert menus. Thick, cream-colored, a ribbon tied in a dignified bow. My mother puts it in the center like a centerpiece. "We've been waiting," she says, voice high with sparkle. I think promotion announcement, or the kind of family vacation we never took unless it involved baseball diamonds and Ryan's uneven swing. I think maybe this time it's for both of us. I think a lot of things. Hope is a loud thinker. Dad slides the envelope to Ryan. "We wanted to do this, right?" he says. "A home is responsibility." Ryan doesn't even pretend to demur. He slips a finger under the ribbon. Paper parts with that expensive whisper. A deed. Blue ink. Our last name typeset like it belongs to the land. Ryan whoops low, male joy shaped like a fist bump with the universe. "No way," he says. "No freaking way." My mother's eyes film. She tells him, "You'll finally have stability, sweetheart." A fresh start. I'm smiling. I can feel my face doing it, the way you hold a pose for a photograph. The world blurs at the edges, then sharpens around the center of the table where his hands, always a little shaky from too much caffeine and not enough consequence, grip the paper that says he owns the thing we grew up believing meant arrived. Dad clears his throat, turns to me. "And we didn't forget you, kiddo." The waiter, cue hit, produces a small glossy card in a cardboard sleeve. Chevron blue. A tiny silver sticker on the corner reads, $5. Heat blooms up my neck. I laugh. It comes out wrong. A tile of silence slides over the table, slick and impenetrable. "It's symbolic," Mom rushes in. "For your commute, honey." "You're always driving for work, right?" She pats the air near my forearm. "We know you're responsible with money." "Not like some people," she teases, flicking her eyes toward Ryan. "They're code for, you don't need us." The server hovers, dessert menus fanned like white flags. Cheesecake, creme brulee, chocolate triple something. "We have a special bread pudding tonight," he offers. I set the gas card on the bread plate. The words assemble themselves in my mouth, a surprising military. I'm going to head out. "Before dessert?" Dad asks, as if I'd just suggested jumping out of an airplane mid-flight. "Big day tomorrow," I lie. "Early start." I stand. I keep my hands steady as I pull the napkin from my lap and fold it once. The chandelier turns the table into a small, expensive diorama. My brother bending over property, my parents framed by crystal rain, and a gas card shining like a joke that cost $5. Ryan says, "Hey, don't be weird about it. You know I need this. The landlord's been on me and—" "Congratulations," I tell him, and my voice is gentle, because it's not his fault that our parents built their love like uneven shelving. Mom says my name like a tug on a sleeve. "Maya, sweetheart." I slide my chair in with 2 quiet taps and leave before anyone can hand me one more symbol. Outside, the night is 10 degrees colder than inside. You can hear the difference. Out here, the metal of cars talking to each other. Tires shushing the street. My old truck. Oh, 6 Tacoma. Forest green faded to a memory. Waits with the patience of old things. I open the door. The dome light clicks on. My keys feel heavier than usual, like they absorbed something in there under the chandelier. When the engine catches, The dashboard glows. 10:14 p.m. Gas gauge flirting with E. Of course. I stare at the Chevron card where I left it on the bread plate. I picture the server clearing it like a forgotten mint. I picture my mother tucking it into her purse in case I change my mind. I picture my father shaking his head at my dramatic streak, the one he claims I inherited from the grandmother whose name I carry. I think of the house deed, blue ink dancing on heavy paper. I think of the word responsibility and how it sounds coming from the man who taught my brother to balance an excuse like a tray of crystal glasses without spilling a drop. I turn the heater knob up. Cold air moves across my knuckles. My hands are a little numb, which is probably why I do the thing I've rehearsed silently for months without admitting it to myself. I take the spare key to my parents' place off my ring. The brass looks dull and old, worn smooth by 1,000 uncounted ins and outs. I lay it on the passenger seat. I don't need it. Not if I'm done rehearsing a part that never fit. Home, I say out loud to the dark windshield. Okay. The word lands and sits with me like an honest friend. My phone buzzes. A text from my mom. Don't be mad. We'll talk later. Dad is paying your brother's property taxes the first year so he can get on his feet. You don't need help like that. You're our rock. Their code for, we can lean on you until you collapse. I put the truck in gear. When I was 9, my grandfather taught me how to plane a piece of cherry until the grain lifted like a secret, red-brown and glowing. Wood wants to be something, he said, showing me how to read it, where it curls and where it resists. Don't force it. Listen. Wood. I understand. People less. I signal left. The blinker ticks like a metronome. I don't force it. I listen to what my life wants to be. I go. The city slides by as if it's also making a decision. Neon and brick and the dark ink of the river. Bridges ribbed like whale skeletons. On the corner of 5th and Lewis, the bakery has already stacked tomorrow's croissants behind a fogged glass pane. I don't feel hungry. I feel alert, the way you do when a storm you've been living under suddenly lifts and the air is light even as your hair whips your cheek. I drive past the exit to my apartment without signaling. The Tacoma hums approval. I aim for the highway that becomes other highways, the ones that eventually spit you into open. My phone vibrates on the console. Ryan. Hey, don't be salty. You know I'm underwater. They're just trying to help. You're good. Good. Their code for silent. Another buzz. Jules. You alive? You still at that meat palace? My hands unclench. I tap the mic icon. Left early. Headed south. 3 dots bounce back immediately. To where? Don't know, I say, and realize I've said it aloud. The truck doesn't care. It'll go where I point it. Jules calls. Put me on speaker, she says. Jules has a voice like hip-hop bass, constant, comforting, with an edge. We met in a beginner's woodworking class 7 years ago because I wanted an excuse to use the hand tools I inherited from Grandpa, and she wanted to make a coffee table out of one board because I'm a minimalist, baby. She works in set design and believes in the reality of things you can touch. What happened? She asks. Ryan got the house, I say. Deed, ribbon, toast. I got a $5 gas card. The silence on the other end is thick and clean, the kind that says, I heard you. Then, pull off in 20 minutes and tell me where you are. My couch is not reclaimed farmhouse chic, but it's horizontal. I'm fine, I start. Her laugh cuts me off. There she is. Miss Fine. Miss Fine drove me to urgent care when a nail gun kissed my elbow. Miss Fine has a trunk tote full of granola bars for apocalyptic scenarios. Miss Fine will not sleep in her truck after eating prime rib fumes. I didn't eat dessert, I say. You will eat pancakes, she says. Exit 42 in 20. There's a diner with a sign that promises world-famous something. I'll meet you there. You don't have to. Let me help you, she says, and her voice softens on the 4 words my bones seem to recognize from a long time ago. I'm suddenly so tired I could cry, which is embarrassing and real. I turn off at 42. The diner is the kind that has seen every version of a Tuesday at 3 a.m. Truckers, night shift nurses, old men with newspapers, girls with glitter still clinging to their eyelids. My grandfather once, probably, reading a thing he pretended wasn't a poem. The neon says open as if that were a philosophy. Jules is already there, in a booth under a broken Budweiser sign, hair in a bandana, hands wrapped around coffee like they could warm themselves on it. She doesn't stand. She doesn't throw her arms wide. She lifts her chin and says, "Hey, sit." I sit. The vinyl sighs like it understands. "You drove," she says. That's a start. "They laminated a deed," I say. "It had a ribbon." She squints like she's trying to see whether I just told a joke. A ribbon? Like party store ribbon? Like wedding invitation ribbon? Did the deed say, property of the golden child? Close, I say. It said Ryan's full name with the middle name he only uses when pulled over. The waitress appears. She looks like she could bench press the jukebox. Her name tag says Irene in block letters. Hungry? No, I say. Yes, I add. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, Jules orders for me, not because she's bossy, but because she's a student of triage. And coffee. Make it 2, Irene says, like that was always the plan. When Irene leaves, Jules slides a paper napkin across the table and a fat pen like the ones delivery drivers use. List it, she says. What? Receipts, she says. Not dollars. Evidence. In case you start telling yourself it wasn't that bad, in case you start translating their words back into your language instead of what they actually mean. I stare at the napkin. The pen is heavy. The diner's air smells like sugar and grease, and the safety that lives in places where everyone knows what syrup is for. I write, 12 years of rent, on me. 2 car repairs, on me. Bail once, on me. Dog sitting for 6 months when Ryan found himself in Austin. On me. College loans. Mine. Yes. College loans. His. Number. Apologies that sounded like, you know how your brother is. You don't need much. You're simple. You always land on your feet. Your brother needs a boost. We're proud of you. With no specifics attached. Jules reads upside down like a spy. Add the time they asked you to co-sign a lease. I add it. My hand shakes. I add the time Mom asked if I could invest in Ryan's landscaping idea because he just needs a little runway. I add the time Dad told me I should let your brother feel like a man and give him the kitchen table Grandpa made me because he's starting a home. Irene sets a plate down and the room smells like pancakes, a smell so basic it almost resets the clock. You okay? She asks, not nosy, just like she's checking a pilot light. I will be, I say, surprising myself with the tense. I don't have to be yet. I will be. After I drink coffee and half the syrup disappears, I tell Jules I can't stay the night. If I stop, I won't start again. I say. And I want to start. The word home is still in the truck, waiting for me to tell it where to point. Where? She says. My grandfather's shop, I hear myself say. The shop hasn't seen me after dark in years. Dust settles the way snow doesn't, permanent and full of light when you brush it away. The tools hang in outlines because Grandpa drew them that way, chalk around metal, like bodies on TV crime scenes. The workbench still bears the scars of 1,000 projects. I kept paying the rent on it, I say, even when I was busy. I told everyone it was nostalgia. I think I knew I'd need it. You know what to do when you get there? Jules asks. I do. Okay. She lays a 20 on the table, though I can clearly afford pancakes. It's not about the money. It's about how she says, "Let me help," and acknowledges that help is different than rescue. We walk out into air that smells like overnight. In the parking lot, she leans on my truck and says, "Text me when you open the shop. Send me a picture of the bench." And Maya? Yeah. Don't argue with dust. It will always try to settle. I laugh, and then my eyes burn. She's right. Dust is patient. So am I. The shop is on the edge of the industrial district where warehouses pretend they're not being turned into condos. I unlock the side door with the key I've worn around my neck since Grandpa died. Inside, the air is 90% sawdust and 10% time. I hit the switch. The fluorescent flicker stutters, then steadies. My workbench waits. The vise yawned open like a mouth mid-word. The planes sit where I left them. Number 4 smoother, number 7 jointer. A block plane with a nick in its cheek that Grandpa made into a lesson about imperfections and the value of nicknames. I slide my palms across the bench. It's scarred where we cut dovetails too deep. It's stained where we spilled coffee and didn't admit it. There's a hairline split at the end where Grandpa said, "Wood moves. Let it." I hang my coat on a peg. I pull the stool that wobbles only if you sit too quickly. I breathe. The shop smells like the version of me I can live with. When I pick up the first board, all I want is to make shavings curl sweet and thin, proof that I can create a shape that isn't a mistake. I clamp the cherry, set the plane, and push. The blade whispers. Shavings bloom. They fall to the floor in ribboned drifts. I push again. Again. My forearms remember. My shoulders align. My breath matches the stroke. Each pass reveals more grain. Each pass is a sentence in a language where no one says symbolic and means cheap. I work until the clock says 2:43 a.m., until my hands are warm and my mind is a clean-edged board, until my phone buzzes with texts I'm not ready to read. I send Jules a picture. The bench, lit by the old task lamp, shavings like confetti after the parade of something honest. She texts back a heart and a hammer and a line. "Go home, builder." I am, I tell the empty shop. I'm building it. Morning makes the shop kinder, the kind of light that flatters honest work. I sleep for 3 hours on the cot Grandpa insisted would come in handy when you're too stubborn to go home. A sentence that etched itself into my future without asking permission. At 9, I shower at the YMCA, then walk to the coffee place that spells my name wrong the same way every time. I open my laptop. My company has offices in 3 cities. I have emails starred with words like initiative and lead and transfer. I do the thing my father hates and my mother fears. I make a decision without telling them first. I write my boss. I'm requesting a transfer to the River Street project, effective immediately if possible. I attach the portfolio nobody asked for, photographs of site plans, revision notes in my handwriting, a shot of a staircase where the nosing line flows like a melody you didn't know you knew. I hit send. Immediately, I stand and walk outside because my body requires air when my life changes. The call comes at 11:12 a.m. "If you're willing to start Monday," my boss says, "we'd be lucky to have you here. I've seen your work. We need your hands." My hands look like they trust that sentence. "Monday," I say. "I'll find a place." "HR will sort the relocation stipend," he says. I swallow a laugh. Stipend is a word that feels like a stitched pillow in a guest room. I will take it. I will buy towels that aren't thin as metaphors. Jules shows up at the shop with deli sandwiches and 2 bright orange moving totes. "We're doing this," she says. "I already did." I say, and tell her about the transfer. She whistles low. Therapist, she says, handing me a card. Dr. Estelle Park, LMFT. I read it 3 times. Before you make that face, Jules says, I'm not saying you're broken. I'm saying you're heavy. Let someone help you carry it the first mile. I put the card in my pocket because pockets exist for things you intend to use. When I walk into Dr. Park's office, it smells like lemon oil and paper. The chairs are softer than I expect, and not in a way that makes you sink. We sit. She doesn't ask me to begin at the beginning because she knows beginnings are foggy. Tell me where you are, she says instead. At a steakhouse, I say. Under a chandelier. They gave my brother a house. She nods like she's taking a tour of a city she once lived in. What did you want? Not the house, I say. A room in the one we were supposed to share. Her eyes are kind. What did you get? A $5 gas card. I smile. It feels like a cut that healed shiny. I left before dessert. Her pen doesn't move. Good, she says. The word drops into a glass of water and doesn't splash. What is it called? I ask, when you're the stable one so long that everyone builds on you and no one asks if the foundation is cracking. Parentification, she says. Enmeshment, favoritism, a family system that broke one child by cushioning another. Broke, I repeat. I don't want to be broken. Being injured and healing isn't broken, she says. It's human. We make plans, not big ones. A ladder doesn't start 3 rungs in the air. We set 3 appointments. We pick a day I will not answer calls from my parents. We pick another day when I will answer and say, I'm not discussing that. And then end the conversation even when my heartbeat tries to jump out through my throat to apologize. I collect evidence, not the bank statements from the time my mother asked me to pay the rest of Ryan's DUI fines because he's under so much stress, not the Venmo requests labeled groceries that piled up like junk mail. Not just those. Evidence of me. Photos of the first table I made that didn't wobble. Emails from clients who wrote your attention to detail saved this project. Pay stubs where the extra line of overtime added up to a couch I actually liked. I build a binder, not to beat them with, but to steady me when their words try to tilt the room. The binder has tabbed sections: work, home, help I gave, help I asked for. Blank except for the sentence I didn't know I could. Texts I can't unread, texts I want to remember. Jules, let me help. Therapy notes, proof of me. A picture of my hands mid-shaving, a piece of walnut as thin as tissue curled around my finger. Jules and I move my life in 3 trips. Not much fits in a Tacoma, but it turns out most of what I own is already the right size for leaving. The shop becomes base camp. I sleep there while I sign the lease on a 1-bedroom with west light that tints the walls honey at 4 p.m., even in winter. I buy a futon and then, 1 paycheck later, a real bed. I buy a kettle that only whistles in the good way. On my first day at the River Street site, the foreman looks at me like a surprise he actually likes. You're the one who fixed the stair calc, he says. How'd you do that? I read it like wood, I say, then realize how it sounds. He grins. You'll fit in, he says, and hands me a hard hat, bright as a promise. On the 3rd day, he asks for my opinion on something that matters. When I answer, he nods and does the thing I suggested without saying it was his all along. It feels like sunlight finding the spot it was always meant to warm. In the workshop that's mine now, because I finally say it out loud, I start building a bench for the new place. Not a grandpa bench, not a copy. Mine. I decide on ash because it's strong and honest. I cut the legs with care. I lay out the mortises and tenons like a dialogue that respects both speakers. I cut the first mortise too short. Swear, adjust, and keep going. I learned to love the way wood forgives you when you pay attention. I go to therapy twice a week. Dr. Park says little and says it well. She teaches me how to label the sensations that previously felt like weather. The jaw tension, like I'm clenching around a secret. The shoulder weight that isn't fatigue but a backpack full of other people's emergencies. The racing heart I used to call I'm dramatic, that is actually I'm scared. We practice sentences. No, that doesn't work for me. I'm not available to solve that. I say them in her office where the worst consequence is a plant looking disappointed. I practice with Jules, who high-fives me like I just lifted a car. I practice at work. It feels like I'm building a muscle with a name I forgot in high school biology, and a meeting again at a reunion, where it turns out we were always meant to be friends. 2 months in, my father texts a photo of Ryan on the front steps of a house. The steps are freshly painted. There's a plant in a ceramic pot I recognize from my last Christmas gift to my mother. He's making a home, Dad writes. We're so proud. You should help him decorate. You're good at tasteful. I type, delete, type, delete. I feel my jaw. I feel my shoulders. I feel my heart. I reply, I'm happy for you. I'm not his decorator. I won't be joining this project. I put the phone face down. I breathe until the need to explain passes like a migraine finding another head. On a Wednesday in late spring, I take the binder and the ash bench and drive to a park where the maples leaf like 1,000 secret hands turned green side up. I sit on my bench. I flip to the tab labeled Proof of Me. I add a photo. The River Street staircase in sunlight. The curve of the handrail smooth as the inside of a shell. My fingerprints somewhere under the varnish where no one will see them but me. I add a sticky note. This is real. That night, a text from Mom. Your cousin Katie's bridal shower is in July. We'd love you to come. We're hosting. Family only. I laugh because family only has always meant bring your tools, Maya. We need to borrow your competence. But I look at the date. I look at my spine. I look at the ash bench. I write back. I'll come if my boundaries are respected. I won't discuss money. I won't contribute labor. If those are problems, I'll see Katie separately. The dots pulse, then nothing. Then, we'll talk later. Their code for, we will attempt to move the goalpost in a voice that sounds like love. I circle the date on a paper calendar. I write bring binder in small, neat letters. I put the pen down. I pick up the plane. I keep building the life that holds me even when the other one tries to shake. July shows up in a dress that sticks to your knees. The shower is at my parents' house because of course it is. Red brick, white trim, the kind of house that looks like a house in a child's drawing. The lawn's too green. The hydrangeas are too blue. The walkway is lined with votive candles waiting to be lit, as if evening were a ceremony. I park across the street. My hands rest on the steering wheel. The Tacoma ticks as heat rises from the engine. I reach for the binder. It feels like holding a plank you've sanded smooth, but not yet finished. Promise that hasn't hardened to sheen. The ash bench is in the bed of the truck, wrapped in a quilt, because I don't go anywhere important without something I made with my hands. I invite myself to sit sturdy. Inside, the house has been staged for Instagram. Balloons in that brushed gold that photographs rich, a charcuterie board that looks like an art installation. My mother floats toward me in a dress the color of champagne. My father appears from the kitchen with a towel over his shoulder like a chef in a commercial for butter. Maya, my mother says, and actually takes my hand instead of clutching the air near it. You came. Her eyes search my face for the right script. I did, I say. Ryan is there too. He looks tired in a way that isn't about sleep. He lifts a hand and I lift one back. It feels like neutral, which is an improvement. In the living room, girls I half raised when they were short and sticky with cake shriek over gifts. I slip away into the den where the air conditioning is a little too aggressive. My father follows, and of course he closes the door. He doesn't do it for privacy. He does it because closed doors have always been his favorite stage set. "We need to talk," he says. "I have 10 minutes," I say. I'm not being dramatic. I set a timer on my phone and set it on the mantel in full view. He stares at it like I put a bomb there. In a way, I did. Alarms are small bombs that hurt no one. "We're worried," he says, and throws the word like a net. "About what?" I ask. "About you," my mother says, arriving with the precision of a cue. "About how distant you've been. About how hard you're making things." "What things?" I ask. My therapist's voice rides shotgun. "Ask for specifics." Vague is manipulation's favorite river. "Family cohesion," my father says. "You've always been the glue." "I'm not glue," I say. "I'm a person." He exhales, irritated, the sigh of a man who wanted a different kind of daughter. "You're punishing us because we helped your brother." "I left before dessert," I say, "not before consequence." I open the binder. The tabs glow like polite signals. I turn to home. Photographs of the narrow apartment where I learned to make peace with small. A picture of the ash bench under my window. "I have one," I say. "Home. I built it. Without you." He blinks, thrown. "No one said you couldn't." "No one said I could," I say. We stand in the quiet where those two things are not the same. My mother reaches for my arm and then catches herself. "We did what we thought was best." "That's not the same as doing your best," I say, and hear the edge in my own voice. I temper it. The point is not to flay them. The point is to put my skin back on. "You built Ryan a safety net," I say. "You built me a scaffolding." One holds someone indefinitely. The other expects someone to climb. "Aren't you proud of yourself?" my father says, and the sarcasm makes the room colder than the AC. "All that climbing." "Yes," I say. "I am." The timer ticks on the mantel. I turn to help I gave, lists not to throw at them, but to remind myself I didn't imagine my own labor. "I'm not asking for back pay," I say. "I'm asking for respect." "What would that look like?" my mother asks, and her voice is small in a way I don't recognize. "It looks like boundaries," I say. "It looks like you not calling me when Ryan forgets his mortgage payment. It looks like holidays without me building furniture or cooking enough to feed 2 zip codes. It looks like you not telling cousins I'm too sensitive when I say no. It looks like family therapy, all of us, for 6 sessions minimum. It looks like you not using the word glue when you mean exhaustible resource." My father chuckles without humor. "Therapy," he says, as if the word itself should apologize for existing. My 10 minutes buzz. I pick up my phone and silence it. "If you won't do therapy," I say, "I won't do this." He opens his mouth. My mother touches his sleeve. "We'll try," she says. I didn't expect that. I don't cry, which is its own miracle. Instead, I nod. "If you show up to 3, I say, I'll show up to 3. "You're making this transactional," my father says, something bitter and old worn smooth by use. "No," I say. "I'm making it mutual." I close the binder. The click of it feels like a door shutting that doesn't lock. Back in the living room, a girl squeals over a slow cooker as if it were diamonds. Ryan corners me by the bookshelf. His jaw is shadowed even though it's early. "Hey," he says. "Hey," I say. "The house," he says and rubs the back of his neck. "It's a lot." "It is," I say, and feel a flicker of something like compassion that doesn't require me to hand him my calendar. "Did you set up autopay?" I ask. "For the mortgage? The utilities?" He looks past me. I meant to. Make a list, I say. Do it today. Ask the bank for alerts. He nods, the nod of a man who wants to be good and hasn't had to practice. He shuffles his feet. I'm sorry, he says, and the word is small and big at the same time. I didn't. I took it because I'm used to being handed things. Does that make me an asshole? It makes you a person who benefited, I say. What you do next is who you are. He inhales. You want to come see it? He asks, a boy under a man. Not today, I say, and it's the right answer because it belongs to me. Send pictures. He nods again, this time like he understands the difference between a request and a demand. At the shower, I clap for Katie. I drink lemonade. I don't carry trays. I don't fix anyone's centerpieces. When my mother asks if I'll help move the gifts to the car, I say, no, but I'll help you make a list for thank you notes later. Her face does a strange thing. It relaxes. We start therapy on a Tuesday. The office has chairs that don't match on purpose. The therapist, Dr. Morales, asks how we describe our family dynamic in one word. My father says, strong. My mother says, close. Ryan says, chaotic, then laughs. So we all know he thinks it's a joke. I say, conditional. No one speaks for a long time. It's the best silence we've ever shared. We go 3 times, then 6. We talk about fairness and equality and equity, and how none of those are synonyms. We talk about love languages and how mine is not administrative assistant. We talk about how my father's father drank quiet and my mother's mother loved loud, and how those two created a virus that keeps trying to reprogram us. We talk about Ryan's ADHD diagnosis that he wore like a t-shirt that said no consequences, and how his life got smaller every time someone cleaned up after him. We talk about me and the way a girl praised for being low maintenance might grow into a woman who believes needs are liabilities. At the end of the 6th session, Dr. Morales asks what family looks like now. My father says, harder. My mother says, honest. Ryan says, work. I say, possible. We leave with homework that isn't a punishment. At home, I put the binder on a shelf that's not accessible to anyone but me. I don't need to carry it all the time. I know where it is if the ground shakes. A year later, December is a different animal. Light lays across my apartment like a conversation that doesn't interrupt. My ash bench sits under the window, exactly where I placed it. It has the kind of scuffs work gives, not the kind neglect gives. In the kitchen, the kettle hums. There's a roast in the oven. Jules chops herbs like she's fighting for my honor, which is to say, with love. Mateo is there too. He's a structural steel guy from River Street whose smile makes my chest loosen and whose patience makes my old scripts glitch. We started with coffee, because Dr. Park dared me to try care at a pace that wouldn't scare me. We made a table, literally and then metaphorically. To Maya, Jules says, raising her glass, who finally turned fine into true. To Maya, Mateo says, touching his glass to mine so gently the sound barely happens, who builds things that hold. Don't you get sappy, I tell them, and wipe my eyes with the back of my hand. My phone buzzes, a video call from Ryan. He's in a kitchen that's not staged. There are dishes in the sink. A plant by the window droops but isn't dead. He holds up a clipboard. Autopay, he says. Everything. I did it. Also, I learned how to make a budget and it didn't kill me. Also, I fixed the hole in the drywall and you can't even tell. He flips the camera. The patch is visible if you know where to look, which is fine. Not bad, I say. Proud of you. He grins and looks 12 and 35 at once. You, coming by tomorrow? He asks, voice careful. I'm roasting a chicken. He adds quickly, if you want. If you don't, I'll send pictures and you can tell me what I did wrong. I'll stop by for an hour, I say. Bring Tupperware. She'll bring it, Jules yells from the kitchen, and take it home too. My mother texts a photo as if she sensed what we were doing. My grandfather's hand plane, polished, a bow on it that's humble and ridiculous in a way that makes me smile. Found this in the attic. It's yours. It always was. The message after it is better. We're proud of you. For real. The way you talked to the contractor last week? Your dad recorded it. He listens to you when he needs to calm down. Don't tell him I told you. I laugh so hard I lean on the counter. I set the phone down. I pour gravy. I pass bread. The room fills with a warmth that knows the difference between roast and manipulation. Mateo squeezes my knee under the table, a check-in that requires nothing of me except answer if I want to. I lace my fingers with his. My ring finger is bare and unhungry. I'm whole in the present tense. After we eat, I take the ash bench out onto the small balcony that looks across the alley to a building with bricks the color of stories. The city breathes. Somewhere, a siren sings a song that is not about me. I sit. I run my palms along the bench I made. The grain tells me what it is and what it wants to be. It lets me know when to stop. I listen. Keys jingle in my pocket. I hold them up to the light. Just the ones I need now. Apartment. Shop Tacoma. No parents' house. No emergency Ryan duplicate. The ring is lighter. The sound it makes is mine. Mateo steps out and drapes a blanket across my shoulders, and I let him. Letting someone cover you isn't the same as giving them your skin. Inside, Jules puts on some record with scratch built in. The needle catches, then moves, then settles. A song starts that sounds like people who know how to stay. I think about the chandelier, about the deed and the ribbon and the small blue rectangle that said $5 like a punchline. I think about how I set the gas card on the bread plate like a message, and how I could have taken it and used it and called it even, and swallowed the laugh that would have rotted my mouth. I left before dessert. Sometimes the sweetest thing is the door. My phone buzzes one more time. A photo from my father. He's in a church basement, folding chairs, bad coffee, some banner about accountability. His face is softer. He writes, 90 days today. Your mother says I should tell you. I don't know how to do this, but I'm trying. Also, I fixed the cabinet hinge without calling you. It squeaks less. I type and erase 3 responses. I end with, I see your work. Congratulations. Keep going. I'll see you for an hour tomorrow. The night is the kind that holds its breath and then exhales. I exhale with it. Home, I think. Not a deed. Not a gas card. Not a chandelier. Not a house where every room has my name on the chore chart and none on the title. Home is the bench under me. The work in my hands. The people who ask how I'm doing and can stand whatever answer I give. I go inside because that is also a choice. The roast has cooled. The plates are stacked. Jules is telling a story about a set wall that fell and no one died and everyone learned about screws. Mateo is already at the sink, sleeves rolled, waiting to be told yes. I nod and say, please. He smiles like permission is its own language. It is. Later, when the dishes are done and the record has flipped and the city lays down, I take my binder off the shelf. I slide a new page into proof of me, a photo of the ash bench on the balcony, the city bokeh behind it like stars that decided to come closer. I write a note across the bottom in my neat letters. Worth, claimed. I close the binder. The click is soft. Not a door this time. A drawer where I keep the things that built me. I turn off the lights. I hold my keys. I go to bed in a room where everything is earned and nothing is owed. And for the first time in a long story that started under a chandelier, I sleep like a person who left before dessert and finally learned how to make her own.